This week, tune into the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
And we say hello to you on this quiet little Tuesday. I was just ending our 2 o'clock show by saying, just when you think it's quiet, something usually happens. This has so far been the quietest week I can remember this close to the college football season. Well, I mean, I realize there's plenty of games left, but the bowl starts this Saturday. But usually things start to happen. So beware of that, caveat emptor. Anyway, welcome back to the program. We are here for the next 4 hours, and we hope you will stick around. The phone number is always the same, and we will take calls in just a moment at 855-242-7285. But let us begin with a couple of headlines. And Longhorns have a new AD. He is Chris Del Conte, came over from TCU. And, yes, he addressed the possibility that maybe the Longhorns and the Aggies will play football again. Remember, they used to play often on Thanksgiving? It was a tradition, and now it's a tradition gone by the wayside, but could it be coming back? USA Today, how ESPN college football playoff are saving bowl games. I got to figure this one out. Explain, please. Money. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize money is the root of all happiness. Meanwhile, John Chavis, the well-traveled one, Tennessee, LSU, A&M, Jimmy Kimmel Show. He's now in the, well, forget the last part. He's now in the running for the DC at Arkansas. Chief, on the way to Hogland. I bet he could do a good woo pig suey. Anyway, welcome to our program. We've always been criticized by some of the newbies or some of the oldies that we don't get the phone calls soon enough. So we'll change it up. We don't have a lot of big news today. We don't have a lot of breaking and developing story. What's the difference between a breaking story and a developing story? Do you know? Developing story is just a rehash of.
It's kind of happening, not really.
Yeah, developing story is something. This is a rehash of breaking news. You ever watch like the cable networks at night? Trump begins second year, breaking news. I mean, it's always the same. There's always breaking news. And the reason for that is if you're walking by the screen, you go, breaking news, I better stop and watch. We don't ever try that trick on this show. Let's get to the phones at 855-242-7285 and start by talking to Jeff out in Oakland, California. Jeff, thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Paul. Just a couple predictions, and I want to nominate something for kind of the best of. So,
sure,
a couple of predictions. Number one is the next Alabama DC will come from the staff, and with the departure of all the coaches over the last 2-3 years, Tosh Lupoi will be named the next DC for Alabama. His recruiting value is immense, and in order to be able to hope to keep him around a little bit, I think that's my call for the next DC for Bama. The second prediction for Bama staff is that there will be an application to the Nick Saban coaching rehabilitation project, and Hugh Freeze, who was pretty skilled and became pretty skilled against Alabama, may do a stint on the I would predict as maybe quality control on the staff as a way of rehabilitating himself before I'm sure he hopes to resume his coaching career somewhere else. The third prediction is that in order for Alabama to win its game against Clemson, I'm going to go off popular path and say that the tight ends collective for Alabama need to get about 120, 125 yards, and hopefully that helps Jalen Hurts avoid an 0-4 on third downs. And then my last nomination is on your show, on your air. one day I called out John Curry as having committed malpractice in their search, and the next day he was fired. So I thought that was a pretty good prediction on your show.
That was a great prediction, Jeff. Hey, listen, great stuff. I like a caller who has it together. Yeah. Jeff really had it together, as opposed to, hey, am I on? He was definitely on. Millie is on always. Millie, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank you for, that call that Judy made yesterday was so beautiful. And I just wanted to tell her that I really appreciate what she said and all. And if that means as much to her, that picture of Joe that she's got, as I know it probably does, that I appreciate everything, but I can't take something that means too much, because it would mean, she just sounds like such a dear lady.
Yeah, other than that part of the call when she talked about her own trials and tribulations in relation to what all of us here meant to her, it was really one of the most poignant calls of the entire year, Millie. I was incredibly touched by it, and what. Again, sometimes when you're sitting here, we joke about things off the air. We don't. We always appreciate, but sometimes you don't realize the depth of what something could mean to someone else. But for those who didn't hear the end of the show, this lady in Alabama is bedridden and has been that way for several years. And she talked about the meaning of this program and all the things that happen around it and what it means to her.
Can I say one thing? You mean just the same to me. My life was kind of, but I won't go into my crazy life. You know about a lot of it through letters.
Sure.
But the thing of it is that you guys mean so much to all of us. And I just love when I see Mark and John and all the little things they do. You're like a professor and all. You teach me so much. I wait for the afternoon so that I can be, on your program and to learn things and everything. So thank you. And I hope Missouri wins. To get on the lighter side of things, I hope Missouri wins. But anyway, I'm going to make this a short one so you can get on to the more important things.
Thank you very much, Millie. Aaron is in Dalton, Georgia. Aaron, thanks. Good afternoon.
Hey, True Tennessee. How you doing, buddy?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, I have two questions for you. Before I say that, man, it feels like Chief's been on. He's been retired for 15 years, but collecting checks from half the SEC.
He has. The only place he hasn't worked is here.
That's a dang truth. I have a question for you. Do you think Jeremy Pruitt will be able to recruit Memphis better than any coach we've had?
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I'll tell you this about Memphis. It's in Tennessee, but barely. What people don't realize about Memphis is, depending on whether you're west or south, Memphis borders Mississippi and Arkansas, and it is not a Tennessee hotbed. It's about 440 miles away from the University of Tennessee campus. If you want to know how I know that, I grew up in Memphis and went to school in Tennessee. I figured it up one time. I think there were 7 or 8 SEC schools closer to my home in Memphis than the state school that I attended.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Also, one other question: how do you think the staff? Have you been on the staff that he's collecting? It sounds like he's doing a good job collecting some good talent.
Well, again, I don't. I've seen some of the names. I think it's always speculative. Aaron, I think he's off to a good start. Everyone is not in agreement. I think we're going to talk to him tomorrow. Pete Thamel in Sports Illustrated unloaded on Philip Fulmer and Jeremy Pruitt in terms of that hire and what it means. We'll explain that when we talk to Pete. But to me, the choices were not great 3 weeks into a coaching search. So give Philip Fulmer credit. He did the best he could under the circumstances. Let's move along. Tommy is in Oxford, Mississippi. Good afternoon.
How's it going, Paul? How you doing today?
It's going great. Thank you.
I just want to say howdy toddy, and I love your show.
Thanks a lot.
I'm an over-road truck driver, and it gives me something to do for about 4 hours out of the day is listen to it.
Well, we appreciate that very much.
I just want to say, talk about the Shea Patterson transfer. I know he's got to do what he's got to do, and we certainly wish Shea the best of luck in everything he does because, he was great at Ole Miss. But I think he made a mistake because I think we still got some offensive weapons coming back, and he really could have had a great year next year.
Yeah, listen, I don't know exactly what went into the decision. I had heard rumors about Shea leaving and being wooed by other schools 2-3 months ago, but I think that's the price of Tommy, of Hugh Freeze being fired. Matt Luke hired, probably obviously didn't do much for Shea Patterson or didn't do enough, and then the prospect of a change of scenery, not going to a bowl game this year, not going to one next year. You finally go, what's the point?
Yeah, we understand that, but we don't have a TV ban or anything. He would have played, against Alabama still. He would have played against all the top SEC teams next year, and he would have really got a lot of recognition for what he done against those teams versus what he's going to do in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I can't answer it without having spoken to him, but I would be very interested in to hear more. Thanks very much for the call. Joe is up next in Alabama. Hello, Joe.
Good afternoon, Paul. How are you today?
We're doing great.
Well, that's good. Thank you for taking my call. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'll be nice today. And but this thing with Jeremy Pruitt, as I understand, he is staying with Alabama during the playoffs, right?
He certainly is.
Well, how is that going? I can see how that could benefit Alabama, but does that help or hurt Tennessee, or will it really matter?
I don't think it matters a lot. I think the most important thing is that he prepares the defense. He's got 3 weeks for the first game, and this is a time of the year where there's a lot of their practice, and then they're off, and then they're practice again. There's a lot of recruiting going on. To me, it would be a little bit confusing, but not impossible.
Well, I do agree Tennessee got him a good coach because I think a lot of Jeremy Pruitt, I don't think nobody really dislikes him or thinks he's not that good of a talent. And I'm testing the waters on just an average college football fan running for president, Paul. Now, I'm thinking a new party would be the college football party. College football fan lives matter, right? Does it sound good to you?
Not really.
Well, right now as it stands, I got possibly 13 voters. I don't know how many it takes. But, boy, if I get an endorsement from you, that'd get me at least half a dozen more.
Yeah, I was actually called today, Joe, by a major newspaper, the New York Times, about this political race. And I've been called by other people. I was on Morning Joe the other day, and I've been on there a couple of times. And one thing I never do is discuss politics or give endorsements. Now, Joe, I will tell you this.
Okay.
If you call off the air and tell us what you'll be willing to pay for the endorsement, we would consider it. I'd rather not. I'd rather not talk to you about that on the air since it's illegal. But we do have a price.
Okay. Well, just make sure Mike answers the phone.
Do you have a number in mind?
Well, is it going to cost more than a $20 bill?
I'm afraid so. Things have been things have been tough at this company lately.
Well, I can buy you lunch too.
Right now, a $20 bill and lunch.
It's getting close.
Yeah, we're in the neighborhood. How about that?
We can talk.
Okay. Well, you can at least take the lunch.
If you throw in dessert and maybe a $15 Visa gift card, we got a deal.
Yep, and a case of smoothies.
Well, no, I've got that covered.
We both like smoothies.
I'm pretty much. It's cold. It's 30 degrees outside. I'm out of the smoothie business. Hey, thanks for the call. We are going to take a break. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7285. Guests to come. A lot to talk about. Who knows? Who knows what could happen today on this election day? We'll go to Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room any minute.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Welcome back to the program. Good to have you on board. We have been talking about a number of things here, and let's go to our correspondent in Montgomery, Alabama, covering the big. I woke up today watching every newscast in America from Montgomery and Birmingham, and now let's go to our correspondent, IMAN.
Right here with my feet on the ground in the capital city. This is where the whole world has converged today. Not only did Auburn kick Alabama and Georgia's ass both live on TV, now we have commanded the attention of the entire world, and we're talking about the Russians, the Czechoslovakians, and the Soviets. Anybody over there want to know what's going on, you got to come to Montgomery, Alabama, and get your news today, because Montgomery, Alabama is going to change this country. And you know what, Paul? It's going to change so dynamically that little fella, that Moore guy, he will be out of Alabama politics by 7 o'clock tonight. If you don't vote Doug Jones and vote early and often, and get your brothers and your mamas. What's that?
We're good with your endorsement. We heard it yesterday.
Well, I'm just telling you, I did vote for him. Hell did freeze over. I did something that most people aren't free-thinking and independent enough to do. Do your own research and think for yourself.
I'm trying to think of the craziest vote I've ever made.
Probably Shorty Price.
I think I did vote for Shorty once for governor.
Everybody voted for Shorty Price.
Yeah.
You have to. In the state of Alabama, if you didn't vote for Shorty Price once, you weren't allowed to ever vote again. Yeah, you weren't allowed to buy beer.
Yeah, a lot of times I literally walk in there with no idea who I was going to vote for.
If you didn't vote for Shorty Price, the only beer they'd sell you is Pabst Blue Ribbon, and everybody didn't wear white socks and put their cigarettes in their T-shirt like
Have you ever
Jim.
written in like a football coach?
No, I'm not going to write anybody in. If they're too damn lazy to get up and go campaign, why would I write somebody in?
That's a good.
That's a good point.
That is a good point.
Why would I pay somebody the kind of money the taxpayers of the state of Alabama are paying for somebody that's too damn lazy to get up and go say, vote for me? I'll lie to you every day of the rest of my life. Just vote for me and vote for my
by the way,
family.
I can't remember what the election was a number of years ago. They actually listed in the paper all the people that got write-ins, and obviously Saban was first, but I think I got like 14 votes for some office. I can't remember which one it was.
Well, I can imagine
that. You voted for me?
And the stupidest thing I've heard on your show today, Paul, you know what that is? Joe from Red Bay. You think we can have an SEC championship game? You think we can have one, Paul? Come on, Paul. Tell me we can. And you know what, Jim from Tuscaloosa? Kiss my entire bam.
Hey, don't knock Jim. I thought Jim had a very respectful call yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah. Unusual, but it was.
Okay, Chris Vanini, NBC just spoke with an Alabama voter who wrote in Nick Saban. I got news for you, Chris. Is that like an upset or something, that Nick Saban got a vote? Here's what I have to ask. This is the most contested, most publicized senatorial contest in my lifetime, I believe. Have you ever seen anything quite like this? No. Hillary Clinton ran for the Senate in New York a number of years ago, and that was a big deal, and other people have run. But this has been, because this is a special election, there's nothing else going on. So for 3 weeks, every political reporter has converged on Alabama. So the question is, you have a very clear choice. You have the Democrat and then the Republican. And then someone is going to say, you know what, I don't know enough about either one of them. I'm voting for Nick Saban. Does that make sense?
To them, yes.
What if Saban actually wins? If elected, Coach, will you serve? I asked Saban a couple years ago. We spent a couple of days together for this profile I did of him. And his best friend is Joe Manchin, who is the senator, former governor of West Virginia. Yes, Saban has friends. And I said, would you ever consider it? And he said, no. He said, it's come up a number of times, but I just do not want to be in public office. Although I think he would be good. Imagine Senator Saban. He's on, like, Meet the Press, gets a question he doesn't like, walks out. So I'm not answering this. I don't know. I think it's rat poison. Don't ask me that question again. It would be hilarious. Anyway, Jim is up next in Tuscaloosa. What about it, Jim?
Yeah, I'm sitting here with a friend from high school, and we're watching your show on TV. I said, listen to this fool. I'm talking about that redneck moron I-man. I said, lay me the odds on what he will say my name. Oh, yeah, I'm sure he will. So that fool, he has to bring my name because, Paul, that fool rides me to be famous, trying to ride me to be famous, and he's a moron. You got equal time, I know, right? Equal time for Roy Moore, right? Since that fool endorsed, what's his name? What's that guy's name? Jones?
He said he voted. Yeah, he did say he voted for Doug Jones.
Well, I got to tell you right now. And by the way, tell him to put my email address, my Twitter address on there instead of that Jim from Tuscaloosa.
Hold on a second, Jim Krams. Did you hear Jim a minute ago? Where is his Twitter?
Exactly. I mean, I'm losing followers because I'm endorsing
Jim,
the man that's supposed to be
the reason why you're. Can I give you some advice here?
Leave the dots.
The reason why you're losing followers, you blocked 5,000 people, Jim.
Right.
No, exactly. That's right, but I still gain them, Paul.
By the way, Danny Krams wants to talk to you.
No, I want him to just put my thing up on the screen.
We're working on it, Jim. I found your account. It's got a lot of
is it the real one?
Stuff. Yeah, I don't know if this is the real you. It's not verified, so I don't really know where to go with that.
Look, it's Jim Tuscaloosa AL. That's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know, Krams.
All right, Paul. Yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah. He's got it, but why don't he keep it up there where I can see it?
Yeah, my question to you is why aren't you verified?
I asked you one time, how do you get verified? How do you do that?
I'm not sure. I have no idea how you. I think you get verified if you're like a credible voice.
You know what verifies it, don't you?
What's that?
Don't you?
Well, no. I mean, I think you apply. I mean, what I mean by that is you get the.
You know what verifies me to the world, don't you?
But I think we got verified because we are a credible voice in our profession.
I know, but here's my point. Do you know what verifies me without verified?
What's that?
I'm followed by Finebaum.
You are. Yeah, it's true. That should
that verifies me.
That should get you over the top.
That has got me over the top. I mean, really, since you brought it up, I've noticed many people that start following me, I look and see who they're following, and right behind they're following you, Sheridan, Tim Brando, and they're all in the same line. I mean, we all fit in together.
If you follow Jim from Tuscaloosa, Danny Sheridan, and Tim Brando, do you really need to follow anyone else?
No, not if you want the information, you don't. Right. But anyway, back to Roy Moore. I mean, really, I'm telling you, this man is an ethical man. He doesn't want to abort babies, Paul. I know you don't like that. I know you're not in that ballpark.
What ballpark?
Having a man that would be on record to abort babies.
Jim, listen, here's my feeling on this election. IMAN is endorsing the other guy. You're endorsing the judge. So I think we're even, aren't we?
Yeah, we're even, but we don't need to be even tonight. We need to be ahead.
Well, I'm going to sit this one out, Jim. I'm not registered in Alabama any longer.
I know, Paul. You're playing it safe as usual.
No, I'm not, Jim. I'm not registered there, so it's hard for me to vote. But I do know who I would vote for, though.
But yeah, I think I do too. That's what scares me. So I know I ain't that guy.
We're against a break. I apologize, but we are going to the break. How's it playing safe when you're not registered in that state? I mean, I'm just. What can I say? We've had two of our most famous callers take a stand in the Alabama election.
Well, there you go.
We'll talk about college football, bowls, and ESPN when we come back. Welcome back to the program. A lot of conversation about the bowl season, and we're delighted to be joined by Brent Schrotenboer joining us to talk about the intersection between ESPN, the college football playoff, and the bowl games. Brent, many thanks for the time. This story, of course, in USA Today. I know sometimes headlines can be a little misleading, but the headline of the story is how ESPN college football playoff are saving bowl games. Let's get deep into it. I know you've done a decent amount of investigation, a lot of investigation. So help us understand your premise here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, so we're seeing as the bowl system has expanded, in 1996 there were just 18 bowl games, and now we've got 40. And we've seen that a lot of these lower tier games like the Miami Beach Bowl last year, the San Francisco Bowl game, which is called the Foster Farms Bowl, the Poinsettia Bowl went out of business. A lot of these lower tier bowl games, they were originally set up as local nonprofits. They had to sell tickets and title sponsorships to make ends meet, and they were having a rough go of it. ESPN Events, which is a division of ESPN, started getting into the bowl business, is actually owning bowl games in 2001 when it bought the Las Vegas Bowl, which was financially troubled at the time they bought it, and they've since added more games. They now own 13 major college bowl games. They bought the Miami Beach Bowl last year from the nonprofit that owned it, and they moved it to Frisco, Texas. So they're able to make it work financially for some of these lower tier games. They are actually saving them in a way. I'm not sure as many would exist if ESPN wasn't there. They're able to monetize it because their currency is more television viewers than it is people in the stands at the stadium. And so they're able to make a game like the Miami Beach Bowl work. That was the least watched bowl game of the year last year. It drew about 800,000 viewers on a Monday afternoon, but that was still far more than the competition. And they are able to monetize that in a way where they can take advantage of it. And they also don't have to, buy television rights from an outside middleman. They're essentially they own the games, and they're broadcasting the events that they own.
I probably shouldn't know this, but I'll ask you anyway, considering the events division that runs this is literally across the street from where we are right now. But how many bowl games, again, does ESPN operate, and how does it work?
Yeah, they have 13 bowl games now after adding the Miami Beach Bowl, which they converted into the Frisco, Texas Bowl. They also own the Celebration Bowl, which is televised on Saturday on ABC. Back in 2005, they only owned 3 bowl games out of the 28 that there were. So they've gradually sort of figured out. It seems they're getting these on the cheap, relatively speaking. These are games that aren't very big bowl games. They get a lot of teams with 6-6 and 7-5 records, but essentially what they're buying is programming for the holiday season when a lot of people are on vacation with their families and they're flipping through the channels. And what would you rather watch? A live college football game with a 7-5 team versus a 6-6 team, or whatever else is on that day on like the Hallmark Channel or whatever else is on, so they can sell advertising to that, and it really increases, and advertisers, of course, they value the live sports programming because it's less prone to people recording it with their DVR and skipping through the commercials. So that's why it's valuable to ESPN, whereas like a local business, which was a traditional model of a bowl game, was run by a local nonprofit that really relied on ticket sales and a title sponsor to be able to make ends meet. And ESPN doesn't need that so much. And so that's why they moved the Miami Beach Bowl to a soccer stadium in Frisco, Texas, which seats 20,000. They'd like to fill that up, but the fact that it's only going to be 20,000 max at that stadium kind of shows you why ESPN isn't very reliant at all on crowd size, but they are reliant on television viewers.
I'm interested, Brent, from week one, and I mean, listen, it's hard to look past the first week. It is these games just suddenly show up Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and they're sprinkled in and out next week. But when does the viewership start to expand? Is it after Christmas?
Yeah, I would say as we get into, toward New Year's, obviously, that's when we have all the big bowl games. Like the biggest bowl games, they might get 20 million plus viewers. And that's when you get the big matchups. That's when you get the big numbers, when you get into like the Holiday Bowl, which is kind of a middle tier bowl game. And then you get into the Gator Bowl, the Outback Bowl, and then, all the New Year's Six games. That's when really things start to heat up, because those are getting all the best matchups. They're paying for those matchups. So they have contracts with conferences where they pay more money to get those matchups. So, yeah, definitely I would say a few days after Christmas is when the viewership really heats up and balloons out toward, something really big time in the prime time area.
I'm interested in the overall health because my only connection to this, about a year ago, I ended up speaking somewhere to the Bowl Association. I don't even remember the name of the organization, but it was all the bowl heads. And I came away, I think they had just put a hold on a couple of these games the NCAA had, And there was a lot of angst in that room, obviously not at the top level, but in the middle to lower division. What is the overall health of this industry?
Well, it depends how you look at it, and there's a few different ways to look at it. In one sense, it's very healthy because the college football playoff is so lucrative, even though it's only affiliated with 6 games and only has 3 games per year. It is so healthy and so lucrative because all that money is coming from ESPN for the right to broadcast it, that the playoff is essentially a company that is owned by the 10 major college football conferences and Notre Dame. And so ESPN is paying the playoff like $470 million a year to televise it. And that money is shared with all the conferences, even the group of 5 non-Power 5 conferences that are able to take that money from the playoff and subsidize all these lower bowl games, all these teams that go to these lower bowl games. Their expenses are essentially taken care of by the playoff money. If that playoff money wasn't there, they would probably lose money on going to these bowl games, or those bowl games simply wouldn't exist. So the playoff is sort of subsidizing it from the standpoint of the teams that are participating. Now, as for the rest of the bowls, it gets back to what we were talking about. The lower tier games are individual businesses, or at least they were before ESPN took a lot of them over. They were having a harder time, like the San Francisco Bowl. Even the former executive director told me, he was surprised that the playoff had diminished the status of his game so much that they were having a hard time. And we've seen other games that have had the same sort of misfortune. It's like their visibility has gone down in the shadow of the playoff, where like a title sponsor really isn't interested in putting their name on that game, because I think they're probably looking at it like, that game is barely going to get noticed in the shadow of the playoffs. So we've seen some of these games go without title sponsors in recent years.
Maybe a strange question, Brent, coming from an ESPN employee, but I'll ask it anyway. Are there concerns about the close intersection between a media company and these bowl games? They own the bowl games, they broadcast the bowl games, or am I reading too much into this?
I mean, there's different ways to look at it. I mean, a media company like ESPN is wanting to make money and sell advertising and put on shows and events that draw viewers. And so from that standpoint, it makes perfect sense. If you're looking at it from a journalist point of view and you're worried about, your company owns the game that you're reporting on, that's a little bit different. But I don't know if that many, the people that run ESPN, that they need to, make their sales and get their profit margins, and the journalism part of it is part of a separate division, I think, is how they look at it.
Yeah, no, I think that is true, and quite frankly, when it comes to some of these lower tier bowl games, I doubt there are very many issues. The only time you hear about this is when you get criticism from some that maybe they put this team in the college football playoff over another because it might help television ratings. Although this year I'm not sure you could make that argument, considering Ohio State was probably a better draw than Alabama, considering you already had a team from the SEC in that region in the tournament.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, the people deciding that, I don't know how loyal they are to ESPN anyway. I think that's a good point.
Well done, Brent. Many, many thanks for being with us. A fascinating conversation. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good stuff from Brent Schrotenboer of Schrotenboer of USA Today, and a nice conversation there. We will take a break, get more of your phone calls at 855-242-7285. More guests to come, more phone calls here in the Situation Room. Welcome back. Let's continue with more phone calls at 855-242-7285. And Jordan is in Little Rock. Jordan, good afternoon.
Hey there, Paul. How are you?
We are doing great. Thank you.
This is my second time on the show, and me and all my friends love to crack open a cold one and watch your show, so keep up the good work there, Paul.
What type of beer do you drink?
I'm a Bud Light man, but, free beer's the best kind.
I hear you. I'm good. Bud Light okay with you, Randy?
If it's free, I'm in.
Yeah, Randy wants a free Bud Light. That's his favorite beer.
Well, hey, next time y'all are in the good state of Arkansas, y'all need to hit me up, and I'll get you some free beer.
Count me in.
Oh, heck yeah, Paul. I'm down when you are, sir. Well, I wanted to talk to you. You know, it's been an exciting time in the state of Arkansas in sports. You know, we got a new athletic director. Chad Morris made his way in from SMU. And, you know, Chad's done a lot in the recruiting game in the short week that he's been here. I was going to see, you know, your thoughts about that. You know, I mean, should Hog fans have high hopes for next year? You know, I mean, everybody's kind of already given their hopes up for a good year. I mean, he's just done so many exciting things already. So I was going to get your take on all that's been happening for Arkansas.
Yeah, you know, I think it's too early to make too many. I mean, you got to find out what his offense will look like when he comports that to the personnel on the field. I'm not overly optimistic, but I hope he does well. I like his energy. We had his news conference here the other day, and I thought he made a very good impression. Ed is next. Ed?
Oh, my goodness. I'm next? Lucky me.
Usually when you go to a guy named Ed, that means you're next.
And I hear that bong, and I try to figure out how much time you got between now and the next break.
Never worry about that, Ed. Just talk.
Never worry about that. Just keep talking, eh? Okay,
hey, Ed's the only guy I know that you go to Ed, you go, oh, I'm next? I mean, how much time do I have? As opposed to start talking.
Oh, my goodness. Always picking on me now. I remember days you used to love me.
Welcome back to the Ed Roast.
Okay.
Shecky Green, come on down.
I think one of the best days I ever had since this illness, and people are calling like Millie and some of these other people, was the day that John Hughes called me at the hospital to find out how I was doing.
I do remember that.
Because so many people were asking. And you know something, I was pretty much down that day. And that really took me up. It really did. And you guys have made me feel good more often than you haven't.
Well, Ed, that means a lot. And, you know, even though we take a few shot at your chops here now and then, we love you, Ed. Come on.
Well, you got to love me.
That's how we do it up in Connecticut.
I'm very lovable. Who else is going to send you
walk in, you like slap the guy.
Who else is going to send you fudge and taffy? You know? I mean, you're still making fun of the pumpkin fudge.
We are making fun of you, Ed, but we love you. This week, tune in to the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
We welcome you back. Glad you are here for the second hour of our program. It's been a busy time. A lot of extraneous matters entering our domain. Let's continue with more phone calls at 855-242-7285. David is in Texas, and you are next up. Hello, David.
Hello, Paul. How are you today?
We're doing great. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much for bringing the SEC football to me. I grew up just north of Pennsylvania in western New York, and I had to deal with the Bills and their fans for too many years, and so I ended up going down to Penn State. It was brutal. So I went down to Penn State and really enjoyed some of their football there, going back to, John Saka. I remember they were playing a game against Miami, and it was really nuts. It was just seeing the games there. But after spending some time on the East Coast and ACC country, where basketball is king, I'm just absolutely loving life down here in Texas. Now, I have a question for you. Maybe your fans can give me an answer. When I went to the Penn State games, I'll never forget, a family was walking with their son through the tailgating area. And the kid must have been about 5 years old, just saw somebody in a Miami jersey, and he went, boo. And all of a sudden the mother admonished the kid, saying, Billy, they're a visitor to our state. You should welcome them. And I'm just wondering, I laughed hysterically, knowing what takes place at Rich Stadium, how things used to, they changed the name of the Bill Stadium. I've been out of town for so long. But Ralph Wilson Stadium, excuse me. And, where they were throwing little, snowballs with beer cans inside of them at little kids in a Miami Dan Marino jersey. And I'm just curious, how do fans in the Southeast Conference. Like, I see the things that take place at the Grove, and they seem really cool and really nice. And I'm just kind of curious to know, how do fans interact across the SEC? Thank you for the call.
Thank you very much. David, I think most fans interact really well. Now, of course, it depends on what time of the day it is and how much they've had to drink. But I will say you're always going to see that video on Deadspin of fans fighting after a game or during a game. That happens everywhere. But I have been to every stadium times 1,000. And I think by and large, fans like to they like to hang out with each other. They like to give each other a hard time. But if you take out the bottom 1%, I think it's a great existence. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Andy in Dothan, Alabama, is up next. Andy, good afternoon.
Hey, Paul.
Hi there.
I'd like to tell you thank you for a great show and really enjoy it.
Thank you very
Paul,
much.
I want to know how you feel about Pruitt staying on at Alabama, coaching through the playoffs. Will that affect Tennessee as far as recruiting goes? And also, you think Tennessee's going to get out of this thing with this other coach without paying him any money?
First part of that question, I don't think it's going to be that difficult. I've spoken to many, many coaches, from Kirby Smart to Kiffin the last 2 years to others, and you can recruit at night. Certainly this week you have to be out and about, but there isn't that much preparation going on. I mean, when you only have one game to prepare for and you have 3 weeks to do it, to me it's always the second game that becomes an issue because you have a very compressed week. But, these coaching staffs are so sophisticated now that everyone already has staff working on either Georgia or Oklahoma if you're Alabama, or anyone else for that matter. So I think it's doable. As far as the second half, I don't want to act like I know too much about contract law, but I don't think Greg Schiano is going to have a case against Tennessee.
Okay, Paul. I thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good work, man.
Thank you. I mean, it was not a signed. It was not a legal contract based on. And besides, I frankly don't need to give Greg Schiano any ideas. I think if he goes after Tennessee, he's going after the wrong person. I would identify the people on social media, those of who have worked for organizations that have some worth, and single them out. Those are the ones who propagated the misinformation. Tennessee reacted or overreacted, but I'm not sure where you could find damages. I know a lot of people disagree with me, but what do you think? It's not a signed contract. I mean, it has to be a binding contract, which it was not. It was an agreement. So, yeah, we're going to do it. Let me sign. Let me wait and get my boss's signature. I mean, he's got to be able to prove damages. Well, I mean, he's got to be able to prove something. I mean, on the contract, it's a little bit different. But this week, tune in to the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
And we say hello to you on this quiet little Tuesday. I was just ending our 2 o'clock show by saying, just when you think it's quiet, something usually happens. This has so far been the quietest week I can remember this close to the college football season. Well, I mean, I realize there's plenty of games left, but the bowl starts this Saturday. But usually things start to happen. So beware of that, caveat emptor. Anyway, welcome back to the program. We are here for the next 4 hours, and we hope you will stick around. The phone number is always the same, and we will take calls in just a moment at 855-242-7285. But let us begin with a couple of headlines. And Longhorns have a new AD. He is Chris Del Conte, came over from TCU. And, yes, he addressed the possibility that maybe the Longhorns and the Aggies will play football again. Remember, they used to play often on Thanksgiving? It was a tradition, and now it's a tradition gone by the wayside. But could it be coming back? USA Today, how ESPN college football playoff are saving bowl games. I got to figure this one out. Explain, please. Money. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize money is the root of all happiness. Meanwhile, John Chavis, the well-traveled one, Tennessee, LSU, A&M, Jimmy Kimmel Show. He's now in the, well, forget the last part. He's now in the running for the D.C. at Arkansas. Chief, on the way to Hogland. I bet he could do a good woo pig suey. Anyway, welcome to our program. We've always been criticized by some of the newbies or some of the, actually the oldies, that we don't get the phone calls soon enough. So we'll change it up. We don't have a lot of big news today. We don't have a lot of breaking and developing story. What's the difference between a breaking story and a developing story? Do you know? Developing story is just a rehash of. Rehash of.
It's kind of happening, not really.
Yeah, developing story is something. It's just a rehash of breaking news. You ever watch like the cable networks at night? Trump begins second year breaking news. I mean, it's always the same. There's always breaking news, and the reason for that is if you're walking by the screen, you go, breaking news. I better stop and watch. We don't ever try that trick on this show. Let's get to the phones at 855-242-7285 and start by talking to Jeff out in Oakland, California. Jeff, thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Paul. Just a couple predictions, and I want to nominate something for kind of the best of. So,
sure,
a couple of predictions. Number one is the next Alabama DC will come from the staff, and with the departure of all the coaches over the last 2-3 years, Tosh Lupoi will be named the next DC for Alabama. His recruiting value is immense, and in order to be able to hope to keep him around a little bit, I think that's my call for the next DC for Bama. The second prediction for Bama staff is that there will be an application to the Nick Saban coaching rehabilitation project, and Hugh Freeze, who was a pretty skilled and became pretty skilled against Alabama, may do a stint on the I would predict as maybe quality control on the staff as a way of rehabilitating himself before I'm sure he hopes to resume his coaching career somewhere else. The third prediction is that in order for Alabama to win its game against Clemson, I'm going to go off popular path and say that the tight ends collective for Alabama need to get about 120, 125 yards, and hopefully that helps Jalen Hurts avoid an 0-4 on third downs. And then my last nomination is on your show, on your air. One day I called out John Curry as having committed malpractice in their search, and the next day he was fired. So I thought that was a pretty good prediction on your show.
That was a great prediction, Jeff. Hey, listen, great stuff. I like a caller who has it together. Yeah. Jeff really had it together as opposed to, hey, am I on? He was definitely on. Millie is on always. Millie, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank you for, that call that Judy made yesterday was so beautiful. And I just wanted to tell her that I really appreciate what she said and all. And if that means as much to her, that picture of Joe that she's got, as I know it probably does, that I appreciate everything, but I can't take something that means too much because it would mean, she just sounds like such a dear lady.
Yeah, other than that part of the call when she talked about her own trials and tribulations in relation to what all of us here meant to her, it was really one of the most poignant calls of the entire year, Millie. I was incredibly touched by it, and sometimes when you're sitting here, we joke about things off the air. We always appreciate, but sometimes you don't realize the depth of what something could mean to someone else. But for those who didn't hear the end of the show, this lady in Alabama is bedridden and has been that way for several years. And she talked about the meaning of this program and all the things that happen around it and what it means to her.
Can I say one thing? You mean just the same to me. My life was kind of, but I won't go into my crazy life. You know about a lot of it through letters.
Sure.
But the thing of it is that you guys mean so much to all of us. And I just love when I see Mark and John and all the little things they do. You're like a professor and all. You teach me so much. I mean, I wait for the afternoon so that I can be, on your program and to learn things and everything. So thank you. And I hope Missouri wins. To get on the lighter side of things, I hope Missouri wins. But anyway, I'm going to make this a short one so you can get on to the more important things.
Thank you very much, Millie. Aaron is in Dalton, Georgia. Aaron, thanks. Good afternoon.
Hey, True Tennessee. How you doing, buddy?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, I have two questions for you. Before I say that, man, it feels like Chief's been on. He's been retired for 15 years, but collecting checks from half the SEC.
He has. The only place he hasn't worked is here.
That's a dang truth. I have a question for you. Do you think Jeremy Pruitt will be able to recruit Memphis better than any coach we've had?
Yeah, I'm not sure. And I'll tell you this about Memphis. It's in Tennessee, but barely. What people don't realize about Memphis is depending on whether you're west or south. Memphis borders Mississippi and Arkansas. And it is not a Tennessee hotbed. It's about 440 miles away from the University of Tennessee campus. If you want to know how I know that, I grew up in Memphis and went to school at Tennessee. I mean, I figured it up one time. I think there were 7 or 8 SEC schools closer to my home in Memphis than the state school that I attended.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Also, one other question: how do you think the staff? Have you been on the staff that he's collecting? It sounds like he's doing a good job collecting some good talent.
Well, again, I don't. I mean, I've seen some of the names. I think it's always speculative. Aaron, I think he's off to a good start. Everyone is not in agreement. I think we're going to talk to him tomorrow. Pete Thamel in Sports Illustrated unloaded on Philip Fulmer and Jeremy Pruitt in terms of that hire and what it means. We'll explain that when we talk to Pete. But to me, the choices were not great 3 weeks into a coaching search. So give Philip Fulmer credit. He did the best he could under the circumstances. Let's move along. Tommy is in Oxford, Mississippi. Good afternoon.
How's it going, Paul? How you doing today?
It's going great. Thank you.
I just want to say howdy toddy, and I love your show.
Thanks a lot.
I'm an over-road truck driver, and it gives me something to do for about 4 hours out of the day to listen to it.
Well, we appreciate that very much.
I just want to say,
talk about it publicly, and I would have to be completely upfront. Look, I have the ultimate in on this story. My dad is part of this, exclusive, one of the most exclusive fraternities in the world. And like Johnny Rogers said, we're the baddest fraternity in the world. We only let in one guy a year. So anyway, that's what I was coming to it with. And that's why I can call up Tim Brown or Earl Campbell's son, Christian, and say, hey, it's Paul Beban. And they're all like, oh, hey, man, how are you? Good to talk to you. Because I've met these guys for years. The Heisman family is something really special. So
to put some context about your dad, he came between Steve Spurrier and O.J. Simpson, just for a point of reference.
Sure. Yeah, and so this year was his 50th year. 1967 was when he won the trophy, and 2017 rolls around, and he and some other winners, some of whom I've spoken to many times, and others that I haven't spoken to as much. For years they've been talking about their feelings about the trust and where things are going. And so Dad decided, on my 50th anniversary, this moment, as he said, I thought he put it quite eloquently, that I see as a highlight, and he joked, the rather short highlight film of my career, because as you know, he didn't have a very long pro career. The 50th anniversary of the trophy was going to be a big moment, but I want to use it to make a statement about this story that has been, unreported. And for me, as a journalist, I'm coming to this unreported story. But for him, it was a chance to say, look, I care about this thing so much, and here's how I feel at this point, in the game.
What have you learned over the years, Paul, in being there and talking to your dad? What are your biggest concerns, I guess, about this whole entity that we call the Heisman Trophy?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at, there's two things going on. One is the story of modern American, the pop culture explosion since the 60s is something bigger than the trophy, right? We go from 3 channels on the TV to 3,000. We go from, one football game a week on television to hundreds, whether it's college and replays and ESPN Classic and 3 programs a week. So the world has expanded, obviously. And it's understandable that the Heisman is not going to be as big of a name as it was back in the day when there was simply less on the radar screen to pay attention to. Nevertheless, if you ask 100 people on the street, name a trophy, 99 are going to say the Heisman if they can name a trophy at all. It's such an iconic brand. And Dad and the others feel like it's underutilized and that it could be doing, everyone says this, it could be doing so much more. Why isn't there a real Heisman house where student athletes or just regular college students can come get tutoring, extra help, planning their finances after college, whatever the case may be? They feel like the Heisman as a brand should be more potent and a force for good, as other winners said to me. They want to see professional management involved with the trust. And they're simply frustrated that the board has not been as receptive as they would like to see to their ideas and their involvement in the day-to-day management of what the Heisman is and where it's going.
And, of course, the Heisman's been through a lot. You helped me, but I'm pretty sure 9/11 had a very difficult and terrible effect on the Heisman, did it not?
Yep. Yeah, that was a real turning point, actually. So, the Downtown Athletic Club, as you know, is the historic home of the Heisman. It's where the award had literally lived its entire life. But prior to September 11th, downtown Manhattan has gone through several boom and bust cycles, and the DAC was having some financial trouble. And September 11th put the nail in the coffin because of just the mass destruction. The DAC, for people who don't realize, is barely a block and a half south of Ground Zero. So it, like everything else in the area, was absolutely shut down and considered, basically a toxic waste site until all these buildings were cleaned and so forth. Now, I live today with my family just a block and a half away from Ground Zero, as it happens. And it also turns out I actually have the trophy in here in our home now. And the Heisman Trust offices are right across the street on Broadway. Anyway, back to the finances of the Heisman. After September 11th, the DAC shut down. And the board at that time took the trophy, the logo, the mark, and all the rights, and very cleverly made it into an educational trust, a 501c3. So they protected the Heisman without it having a physical home anymore and made it into this educational charity. So it's only been in its current state for 16 out of the however many years it is now, 83, 85, you tell me. So this is a relatively new development for the Heisman. And the board, again, like I said, made a great move to do that. The winners now feel like it's time for a new stage in the long, hopefully very long life of the Heisman Trophy.
I would like to close, Paul, by just asking you. I know I mentioned this earlier, but reflecting.
Sure.
I know you've offered some very constructive criticism, and I think you and your dad certainly want what's best, and I think we all do.
Yeah.
But just from just a span of life reflection on where this award has taken you in terms of just seeing things and getting to know people.
I mean, this is what. It's the sentiment, I think, expressed by the winners in the sense that they don't want any of this controversy to impact the kid, as Dad calls him. They want this to be the amazing experience that it's been for all of them. Baker is the kid this year. Eric Crouch told me how much he was looking forward to, throwing his arms around whoever it was and meeting his family and having him meet his kids and knowing that, there's going to be years of experience together. So they all want this to be continue to be something special, and it's always been that for me. You know, I've always had access to a world of these really fascinating people, and been surrounded by the excitement of this my whole life. So I feel passionately about it as well.
It is a pleasure to talk about this. I hope people will read it. We put the link on our Twitter page.
Terrific.
Paul, thank you very much. What a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, okay. Can I give you one quick thing?
Of course.
Well, when I told my son, who is a far bigger and more fluent sports fan than I am, I don't write about sports much. I'm a journalist, but so this was a sort of a first for me. He said, "Oh my God, Dad, you're going to be on the Paul Finebaum show?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Dad, you realize that's like the NPR of the SEC. They listen to it all the time."
Well, that is fabulous, Paul, and my best to your son, because what cross generation this is, because my dad took me to a game in Memphis, Tennessee, when your dad played against Tennessee. So
wow.
We go full circle from me as a kid with my dad to your kid being actually impressed with something you probably had no earthly idea about. So that's the way the world works. Thank you so much.
Fun. All right, take care. Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
What an incredible story. That's really cool. That's fun. Paul Beban joining us. We'll take a break, get your reaction to that, and more of your phone calls after this. Welcome back. Glad you are here as we continue on this Tuesday afternoon. Let's get some more phone calls here at 855-242-7285. And Jim is in Florida. Good afternoon, Jim.
Hello, Paul. How are you doing today?
We are doing great. Thank you.
Good, good. Now that the black cloud has lifted over Knoxville for this hiring disaster, you had indicated that we probably got us a pretty good hire there.
Correct.
And I'm curious to see if you've heard anything in your elite circles up in the sports world about who's his staff going to be.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of names, but I haven't heard a lot of substance yet, and I think it's a good suggestion for us to dig a little deeper, and we will. But I hate to just throw a bunch of names against the wall, even though I've heard enough. Probably the same names you've heard.
What about T. Martin? Do you think there's any consideration there, bringing him in as OC?
I mean, I certainly think it's been discussed. I have not heard his name specifically, though.
Yeah, and just one last thought, too, and then I'll hang up, because, this deal with Giano, that little renegade unit of fans that we had, that went to the social media and destroyed that man like they did, they ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah, but you know what, Jim? I don't think they are.
No, they're not. Apparently,
they feel like they got the better coach, and that's not really what this was about.
Yeah, but I don't think that renegade bunch there. That's not representative of what Tennessee fans are and who they are. I've been a Tennessee fan for 52 years now, and I've seen you've been around a lot of Tennessee fans.
Sure, of course.
They're good folks. They're good people.
They're great people. And that's what bothered me so much, because I think that was a very small group who were angry, and the whole truth is still not out, and I don't know what the truth is. Will
it ever come out?
Yeah, I think it will. I think someone will do some substantive reporting and find out exactly the timeline on what happened and why it happened. And I think a very small group of people ended up giving that university a very bad name.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. But saying that, Merry Christmas to you and the crew there, and enjoy watching the show.
Thank you very much for the call. I really do appreciate it. Jim is in North Haven, Connecticut. Hey, Jim.
It's not Jim. It's Joe I, Paul.
Let me start over again. Joe I, is that right?
Yes.
Joe I is in Connecticut.
That's correct. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking my call. I just had a quick story. I'm an older guy, and I did a lot of consulting work in the southeast area and Mississippi and Alabama and Georgia, and I absolutely sat down with my two sons when they were ready to go to school, college, and I implored them to head south and to experience the Southeast and the Southeast people, the people from the Southeast, and the football down there and the sports, because they both played some high school football. But one went to the University of Georgia and one went to the University of Alabama. They both had great times. They did very well. They're very successful businessmen. And it was a way to teach them that there's more going on in this country than in the Northeast. And they did witness this, and I think they're better men for it. They're both very successful. Of course, I'm a proud papa, but the bottom line is it was a great experience, and they turned me on to your show, and I watch it every night. I'm 73
so nice.
years old, and I enjoy every minute of it.
Well, Joe, that really means a lot. I appreciate you saying that.
Well, it's from the heart, and I just want you to know I enjoy your show, and it's tough when Georgia plays Alabama, and I stay right in the middle on the 50-yard line, but I do lean a little Alabama. But, hey, that's my right as the father.
Sure. It's good. Hey, Joe, listen, great to hear from you. Hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you. All right,
bet.
Paul. Bye-bye.
Joe I calling from North Haven. Nice place to live. Cold this time of the year, but still pretty area. Let's check in next with Ashley in Auburn. Hello, Ashley.
Hey, Paul. How are you doing?
We are doing great. Thank you.
I'm calling. Well, I briefly met you at the Auburn-Georgia game. I had my Dan Mullen come to Florida poster.
I do remember
and I think
that.
you said something along the lines of, I don't think that's going to happen. But it did happen, and I'm happy. But I would like to see what you think about how Dan Mullen matches up recruiting-wise now with Willie Taggart, Mark Richt, but also, Lane Kiffin down there, Charlie Strong, and how you think the outlook is for Florida with this next recruiting class.
Well, I tell you what, I think Dan Mullen turned out to be a great part of the reason I didn't think he would end up there is I thought someone else would, and he might go elsewhere. But I think Florida is quite fortunate to have him. I think he'll be a force on the recruiting trail. That's a very congested state right now, but I think Florida to me is a place that is vibrant and exciting. I don't know what the appeal of Florida State is. I really don't. I think that program has hit the skids.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
Well, I am glad to hear from you. Great to meet you in Auburn. Hope to see you soon. We're up against a break. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7285. More guests to come, more phone calls. Long way to go here on a Tuesday. Welcome back to our program. Let's continue with more phone calls. And John is up next. How you doing, John?
Paul, thanks for having me on your show again.
Thank you.
I'm a Tennessee fan, but actually had a quick question about the Georgia-Oklahoma game. I have a cousin of mine who lives in the greater Los Angeles area, and she's being affected right now by the fires and stuff like that. So my question to you, and God forbid that this happens, but let's say the wildfires affect the game to where it has to be relocated. Where do you think they would possibly do that? Maybe Arizona or Northern California? And do you think it would be wise for them to maybe just be proactive and do it right now? So I want to call and listen to
it's a good
response.
Thank you for the call. I remember we did a Friday show. Brams, I think you were here that day. And I can't remember who it was. It was either California or Stanford or somebody was playing, and there was a danger because of the winds out there and the fires. I don't know how to answer that question. That game is, 3 weeks off, 3 weeks from yesterday. So I have no doubt that the officials will watch it very, very closely. The Rose Bowl in Pasadena is right at the foot of the San Gabriel Mountains. So I do not know how to answer it. I think it's probably a little speculative right now, but if there's a danger, they'll find some other time to play that game. I don't know where and when, because that's a traditional game at 5 o'clock on New Year's Day, but they will not play it if it's dangerous to the general population, I promise you. Let's continue with more phone calls here. And Ken is in Alabama. Hello, Ken.
Paul, I have a question and a suggestion. My question is, I watch your show all the time. Has anybody pointed out that 3 of the coaches that are coaching in the college playoff have national championship rings from the University of Alabama?
Well, that would be everyone but Lincoln Riley, yes. I thought about it. I'm not sure we pointed it out, but certainly it's worth mentioning that Saban, of course, has plenty. He has 4. Dabo has 1 for Alabama as a player in '92, and Kirby has, 4 as a coach.
Just unusual.
It is.
My suggestion, I'm a proud resident of Alabama, and I live in an area called Muscle Shoals, Alabama.
Sure.
Which the Southeast is noted for football, but it's also world-renowned for music. I don't know if you know the history of Muscle Shoals.
Oh, do I ever? Yeah, no, I've seen the documentary. I've been to some studios up there, and it is one of the richest. But go ahead and tell it. I don't know it like you do.
Well, no, nobody understands the Rolling Stones. I mean, we're not talking country music here. We're talking.
No, we're
you
talking.
Go to Europe and people know Muscle Shoals. My suggestion might be, if your producer maybe get on the internet, maybe dedicate one day of your music on your show to Muscle Shoals music, and maybe educate people listening to your show about how powerful a place this is in the music industry.
No, you're right, and I've been up there a couple of times, and you probably know it. You're in the music, but the Muscle Shoals. What's the name of that? The Fame Studio? Is that what it's called?
Well, it's Fame, but there's also Muscle Shoals Sound.
Right. Okay.
Recently been bought, and I can't think of the guy's name, but he makes these Beats headphones. Anyway, great. Yes, he has bought the old Muscle Shoals Sound Studio. But it's just such a rich thing. I mean, we're talking Rolling Stones.
Oh no, you're talking about the biggest names in the industry.
Yeah, Percy Sledge, When a Man Loves a Woman.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mustang Sally, just Aretha Franklin.
No, I've gotten to know a few musicians who played in some of those groups, and it is incredible to think about the music in that era, especially.
And nobody knows about it. Really.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know there was a documentary done not long ago.
Yeah. Yes.
But you're right. The number of people watching a documentary is minuscule compared to the people watching this show.
May I ask you one other question?
Sure.
What is your knowledge of what happened with Jeremy Pruitt at Georgia?
I knew a little bit about it. A friend of mine represented him at that time, and I know it got pretty tense. And I always heard it was maybe a little bit overblown. But do you know something?
No, I just understand. I think that he's probably responsible for them getting their new indoor practice facility, and I think that maybe rubbed some people wrong. But anyway, I just wondered if you knew anything. And thank you, Paul, for taking my call.
Thank you very much. And a great suggestion, Ken, about the Muscle Shoals music, which is, I mean, there are a lot of pockets of great music in the South. Of course, Nashville. Memphis has an incredible history. But Muscle Shoals is probably the most underrated. I would agree with you on that. Let's check in with Logan in Florida. Logan, go right ahead.
Hello, Paul.
Hi there.
It's really nice. Who do you think is going to win the national championship, personally?
Wow. I haven't really given it much thought. Do you have a suggestion? Maybe a help for me? A little tip for me?
Well, hasn't it been like Clemson, Alabama for the past 2 years, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to. I mean, obviously, plenty of people will be making predictions, but to me, I know I will refrain until I actually see who's in the game. Mm-hmm. It's going to be one of 4 teams. I'll make it simple for you. I'd go with Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, or Oklahoma.
And they're somewhere.
You think those are the best 4 to go with? We are up against a break here. More phone calls at 855-242-7285. More guests to come. It's been a busy couple of hours. We've been here 3. We have 2 more, and we are coming right back. This week, tune into the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
Couple hours to go on Decision Day when the Finebaum voters go to the polls. Let's get some phone calls here at 855-242-7285. And Cheerleader, always one of my favorite callers. Saw her a couple weeks ago in Sweet Home, Alabama. How are you, Cheerleader?
I am so great, and thank you for taking my call, Paul.
Thank you.
And I tell you, the state of Alabama's hopping. If it's not football or Senate race or snow, we got it going on.
Yeah, you got it. Everybody's talking about Bama. It's not even about Nick Saban.
I know it. We'll know in a little bit later on tonight how that's going to work.
I already know who's going to win. I already know.
Do you? The one with the most votes?
No, Alabama's going to win. Roll Tide.
Okay, now listen to me. I loved Judy's call yesterday.
Oh, that was great.
Now, and you know what, Paul? For all the people that call, think of all the people that are out there listening that don't call. And so you're going to be on the radio forever and ever and ever, but I may want you to come back to Alabama and let this be your home
Well,
base.
I think I talked to you when I was there, and there is a distinct tug of war about doing what I'm doing and going back to where I spent most of my life. So that is a dilemma. I will tell you that.
If you need my help, you just call on me.
I probably will because
Cheerleader
is a real estate agent, so you would be high on my list.
Now let's go.
Since I no longer own anything in the state of Alabama.
Well, I could maybe see that you do.
I used to have a really nice house that's no longer mine. They took it away.
Yeah, we'll get you another one. Now
Okay.
Look, I think I am proud of Dan Mullins. I am proud of Dan Mullins. I think he is a class act. I think he's a class act, and he's going to get whomever quarterback going down there at Gainesville, and they're going to be somebody to deal with. And I'm proud that the interview or the press conference that Jeremy Pruitt spoke to when he became the coach at Tennessee, that was pretty cool, Paul.
It was. He did a great job.
He did a great job, and when he said everybody on that team, everybody's going to know what to do. They're going to know what's expected of them, the attitude, and it starts at the very, very bottom and goes to the very top. And I think that's why Nick Saban is so successful. He expects top dog out of everybody. And Paul, this morning, Morning Joe was down here in Beeham.
I must admit, I watched it. I got homesick.
Well, I didn't know about it till this morning.
Oh yeah, no, I was on there. I've been on there a couple of times lately.
Yeah,
So I heard him mention it, and he did the whole show from Mountain Brook.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that Laura, she's just a great female sportscaster. She knows as much information. She probably knows more information than 80% of your callers do.
I think you're a little low on that.
Oh, okay. But listen, Judy's call was out of this world. Oh, and Marcus Spears was in Birmingham last night for the quarterback.
Yeah, I was with him earlier, and he told me he was going. I'd spoken to that group last year, so we were talking about it. It's a great group, and
that's my favorite group, men's group in Birmingham, because they raise so much money for children's hospitals.
This week, tune into the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
And we say hello to you on this quiet little Tuesday. I was just ending our 2 o'clock show by saying, just when you think it's quiet, something usually happens. This has so far been the quietest week I can remember this close to the college football season. Well, I mean, I realize there's plenty of games left, but the bowl starts this Saturday. But usually things start to happen. So beware of that, caveat emptor. Anyway, welcome back to the program. We are here for the next 4 hours, and we hope you will stick around. The phone number is always the same, and we will take calls in just a moment at 855-242-7285. But let us begin with a couple of headlines. And Longhorns have a new AD. He is Chris Del Conte. He came over from TCU. And, yes, he addressed the possibility that maybe the Longhorns and the Aggies will play football again. Remember, they used to play often on Thanksgiving? It was a tradition, and now it's a tradition gone by the wayside, but could it be coming back? USA Today, how ESPN college football playoff are saving bowl games. I got to figure this one out. Explain, please. Money. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize money is the root of all happiness. Meanwhile, John Chavis, the well-traveled one, Tennessee, LSU, A&M, Jimmy Kimmel Show. He's now in the, well, forget the last part. He's now in the running for the DC at Arkansas. Chief, on the way to Hogland. I bet he could do a good woo pig suey. Anyway, welcome to our program. We've always been criticized by some of the newbies or some of the oldies that we don't get the phone calls soon enough. So we'll change it up. We don't have a lot of big news today. We don't have a lot of breaking and developing story. What's the difference between a breaking story and a developing story? Do you know? Developing story is just a rehash of.
It's kind of happening, not really.
Yeah, developing story is something. This is a rehash of breaking news. You ever watch like the cable networks at night? Trump begins second year, breaking news. I mean, it's always the same. There's always breaking news. And the reason for that is if you're walking by the screen, you go, breaking news, I better stop and watch. We don't ever try that trick on this show. Let's get to the phones at 855-242-7285 and start by talking to Jeff out in Oakland, California. Jeff, thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Paul. Just a couple predictions, and I want to nominate something for kind of the best of. So,
sure,
a couple of predictions. Number one is the next Alabama DC will come from the staff, and with the departure of all the coaches over the last 2-3 years, Tosh Lupoi will be named the next DC for Alabama. His recruiting value is immense. And in order to be able to hope to keep him around a little bit, I think that's my call for the next DC for Bama. The second prediction for Bama staff is that there will be an application to the Nick Saban coaching rehabilitation project, and Hugh Freeze, who was a pretty skilled and became pretty skilled against Alabama. May do a stint on the staff. I would predict as maybe quality control on the staff as a way of rehabilitating himself before I'm sure he hopes to resume his coaching career somewhere else. The third prediction is that in order for Alabama to win its game against Clemson, I'm going to go off popular path and say that the tight ends collective for Alabama need to get about 120, 125 yards, and hopefully that helps Jalen Hurts avoid an 0-4 on third downs. And then my last nomination is on your show, on your air. one day I called out John Curry as having committed malpractice in their search, and the next day he was fired. So I thought that was a pretty good prediction on your show.
That was a great prediction, Jeff. Hey, listen, great stuff. I like a caller who has it together. Yeah. Jeff really had it together, as opposed to, hey, am I on? He was definitely on. Millie is on always. Millie, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank you for, that call that Judy made yesterday was so beautiful. And I just wanted to tell her that I really appreciate what she said and all. And if that means as much to her, that picture of Joe that she's got, as I know it probably does, that I appreciate everything, but I can't take something that means too much, because it would mean, she just sounds like such a dear lady.
Yeah, other than that part of the call when she talked about her own trials and tribulations in relation to what all of us here meant to her, it was really one of the most poignant calls of the entire year, Millie. I was incredibly touched by it, and what. Again, sometimes when you're sitting here, we joke about things off the air. We always appreciate, but sometimes you don't realize the depth of what something could mean to someone else. But for those who didn't hear the end of the show, this lady in Alabama is bedridden and has been that way for several years, and she talked about the meaning of this program and all the things that happen around it and what it means to her.
Can I say one thing? You mean just the same to me. My life was kind of, but I won't go into my crazy life. You know about a lot of it through letters.
Sure.
But the thing of it is that you guys mean so much to all of us. And I just love when I see Mark and John and all the little things they do. You're like a professor and all. You teach me so much. I wait for the afternoon so that I can be, on your program and to learn things and everything. So thank you. And I hope Missouri wins. To get on the lighter side of things, I hope Missouri wins. But anyway, I'm going to make this a short one so you can get on to the more important things.
Thank you very much, Millie. Aaron is in Dalton, Georgia. Aaron, thanks. Good afternoon.
Hey, True Tennessee. How you doing, buddy?
We're doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, I have two questions for you. Before I say that, man, it feels like Chief's been on. He's been retired for 15 years, but collecting checks from half the SEC.
He has. The only place he hasn't worked is here.
That's a dang truth. I have a question for you. Do you think Jeremy Pruitt will be able to recruit Memphis better than any coach we've had?
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I'll tell you this about Memphis. It's in Tennessee, but barely. What people don't realize about Memphis is, depending on whether you're west or south, Memphis borders Mississippi and Arkansas, and it is not a Tennessee hotbed. It's about 440 miles away from the University of Tennessee campus. If you want to know how I know that, I grew up in Memphis and went to school at Tennessee. I figured it up one time. I think there were 7 or 8 SEC schools closer to my home in Memphis than the state school that I attended.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Also, one other question. How do you think the staff, have you been on the staff that he's collecting? It sounds like he's doing a good job collecting some good talent.
Well, again, I've seen some of the names. I think it's always speculative. Aaron, I think he's off to a good start. Everyone is not in agreement. I think we're going to talk to him tomorrow. Pete Thamel in Sports Illustrated unloaded on Philip Fulmer and Jeremy Pruitt in terms of that hire and what it means. We'll explain that when we talk to Pete. But to me, the choices were not great 3 weeks into a coaching search. So give Philip Fulmer credit. He did the best he could under the circumstances. Let's move along. Tommy is in Oxford, Mississippi. Good afternoon.
How's it going, Paul? How you doing today?
It's going great. Thank you.
I just want to say howdy-toddy, and I love your show.
Thanks a lot.
I'm an over-road truck driver, and it gives me something to do for about 4 hours out of the day is listen to it.
Well,
And
we
it's a great
appreciate that
show.
very much.
I just want to say,
in my memory, I thought that was great, didn't you? I remembered one of 4 people who made a hole in one in 1989, and now you want the other 3.
That's right. Well, the other 3 was Nick Price.
Nick Price, of course. That was the next one on my list.
And then Mark Wiebe.
I missed him. I couldn't remember that one.
Okay. And a real close friend of mine who I love dearly, Doug Weaver.
What was his first name?
Doug Weaver.
Wow. Doug Weaver.
Dad,
Yeah, I've heard of Doug Weaver.
Doug is in South Carolina. He
Yeah.
teaches golf now in South Carolina. Doug's dad played football for Coach Bryan at Kentucky.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and Doug's son started at guard for La Citadel.
That's a great story.
Yeah, and all the players hit 7-iron.
Okay, this is
And,
1989, right?
1989.
So that would have
Oak
been,
Hill.
let me think, Curtis Strange win that one?
I don't know. That's
I think
maybe so. He won it 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I think he won in 88 and 89.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if my memory is correct, I believe Hal Irwin won in 1990.
Yeah, that's right. When he's giving the high fives.
Yeah, I think so.
18.
Don't ask me how I know all this stuff.
Yeah, but I want to throw the argument.
Probably wrong about all 3, by the way.
I want to throw all.
But you know what? From now on in my life, I will know that Doug Weaver was one of 4 people that hit a hole in one at Oakmont.
Well, Doug's a great guy. In fact, he was on the leaderboard for, the first 2 days, and he fell off. He did make. He also got in the 1993 U.S. Open at Barterstraw, but and he made.
That was a great U.S. Open there.
Yes, but he said something to me that I will never forget, and he told me that a short pencil is better than a long memory.
A short pencil?
It's better than a long memory.
Hey, by the way, have you ever had a hole in one, Ned?
I've had 10.
10?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about putt-putt. I'm talking about like on a real course.
Hey, Paul. I used to play. I had a nationwide.
Oh my goodness! Did you really? Wow, that's really cool.
In '97, but I can't play Dead in the Western movie now.
No, I've had one. My wife has had 2. I have a great hole-in-one story, but I'll save it for another time. It's a pretty famous story. Thanks, Ned. Really appreciate that. That was really cool. Doug Weaver, hole-in-one, 1989, Oakmont.
Remember it.
Oakmont is in Pittsburgh, I think. Yeah. Welcome back to the Golf Channel. We'll have David Duvall in here to talk about, man, getting some serious golf chatter today. Let's move up to talk to Nick next. Nick is in South Carolina. Nick Faldo is on the line. The winner of he was in a playoff in one of those U.S. Opens. Hey, Nick, how are you?
Good. How are you?
We're doing great. Thank you.
First off, I appreciate you taking my call. Me and my dad watch all the time.
Appreciate that very much.
I was wondering if you knew anything maybe about the offensive coordinator position at South Carolina, and maybe what you thought about us throwing some money at Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Nick, I would. There's not a better offensive coordinator candidate out there right now than Hugh Freeze. So forget the rest of the names. I mean, to me, it's just a matter of whether you can sell Hugh Freeze to your administration. I've talked to people in the industry, and the conventional wisdom is that he may end up as a consultant to someone, but he's going to end up at Alabama as a consultant if somebody doesn't hire him. So, do you want that to happen, or does someone want to take a chance?
I would like for us to take a chance. Honestly, I mean, I don't know. Do you think it's a possibility? Or
I don't know, but I do know Hugh Freeze is he's a brilliant coordinator. I do know that.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the call. I do appreciate it. Let's go to the 18th hole. Vern Lundquist is 16. Tiger Woods tapping in for a 9 at 16. He put 3 in the drink. Let's go to Bob next. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Paul. How are you today, sir?
We are doing great. Thank you.
We had one thing in common that I mentioned yesterday, I guess it was, and both our fathers died when we were very young.
Yes, that is interesting.
The other thing that we have in common is I don't have any hair either.
Yeah, well, you and I are the only ones in America that don't have any hair.
I lost mine before you did yours.
I got a couple of. I got a little shrub over here.
Well,
let's think about it for a second, Bob. What else do we have in common? We both. Wear glasses, Bob? You wear glasses?
Sir?
Do you wear glasses?
I'm sorry, I still didn't understand, Paul.
Do you wear eyeglasses?
Yeah.
Okay, we got 3 things in common.
Okay.
You're from Tennessee, right?
You did keep your hair longer than I did.
Are you from Tennessee?
Yeah.
4 things in common.
Well, we're a lot alike, I guess.
I'll tell you what.
You're older than I am. No, not really. I'm older than you are.
Bob, I tell you what. We ever got together, we would rule the world.
Well, we have a lot of things in common. I've kind of picked up on that along as we've talked down through the weeks.
Another thing is we both speak very deliberately.
Yeah.
Both have very pronounced Southern accents.
Well, I try to not speak before I think.
That's how I am.
And I picked that up on you too. And I have. Do you have any children?
No.
Okay, and now I've got.
You have a couple. I think you told me that.
I have.
Okay, well, I think we're starting to get into the differences now. Next thing you know, we'll get into politics.
There. And, I do think we think a lot alike.
We do. We're very, very, very smart people.
And you've done a heck of a lot better than I have financially.
Financially? You sure about that?
Yeah, you're doing a lot better than I am.
Okay.
I have
I mean, it's
wealthy relatives, but they don't pass any of it to me.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Randy, you want to? Hey, I hate to run, Bob. I knew we were on a roll there, but we are going to take a break. More to come. More phone calls. More similarities. More differences. More hole-in-ones. David Faraday will join us next. Welcome back to the program. I haven't seen or heard from this guy. It's Election Day in Alabama. Have you heard the news?
No. Who won?
IMAN has been elected senator.
Ooh, boy, I can't wait to all the laws he'll try to pass. But, man, I hate that political crap.
Well, I'll tell you what. It may be over. It may not be, depending on who wins.
Oh, you don't know yet.
I have not. I've got a pretty good indicator, but they gave me an envelope. In this envelope right here, I have the winner, and it will be revealed. Is it? What did you say? It was more or less than I thought?
Yeah. I think people in Alabama, I don't know, man. I'm just staying away from that. I don't know how much they got on the guy to prove, but I call really to say something to Ed.
To Ed from Connecticut?
Yeah, Ed, quit whining. At least you don't get cut off like I do.
Now, Larry, you're starting to sound like every one of the old Finebaum callers. Don't get enough time on the Finebaum show. I get cut off.
Friday, let me ask you a question. Let me give you dedication.
I tell you what, you just go ahead.
Larry, hold on just a minute.
And you
hold on just a minute. Hold on just a minute.
No, you
talking about dedication. Friday, I couldn't have no TV because of the snow. I sat in my truck with it running, snowing, listening to this show.
Okay.
That's dedication,
you sat in a car with it running.
Yeah.
You realize you can be asphyxiated for that? Like that?
No, my windows cracked. I used to be a police. I know that. But I'm going off on Jeff from Columbus, Ohio, and all of a sudden, you said, I'm tired of listening to this. See there? Look at what you're doing to me. Look at him. You see?
Keep talking, Larry.
Okay, you going to play that on me, Jack? If I was Jim, you wouldn't be doing this mess. I
Keep
got
talking,
you,
Larry.
Well, hey, look. Who's that giggling in the background? Put him on there.
Okay.
Larry, we're having some technical difficulties, so just when
Larry,
you tell you to keep talking, that's what.
See, Larry, what happened was I kicked my shoes off. I have a little cord in the back of my head that pulled out the earphone. So okay, so I'm back.
Okay, so you're going to treat me with a little more respect? Because I call this joke because my Bama buddies, man, they like hearing me.
Okay.
But just tell me, you promised you would say, all right, I'm tired of hearing you say Roll Tide. And I could say Roll Tide, but you won't even give me that luxury.
Larry, you can say Roll Tide to your heart's content.
I mean, at the end, you cut me off. Who's that back there keeps yanking? But y'all be quiet while me and the professor's talking, okay? We don't need none of you giggling.
Who are you talking to?
What? I'm talking to them goofballs back there, especially. I like that one, but Mark's back there, and me and him ain't.
You don't like Mark, do you?
No, he's a phony.
You call me a pony?
You are. You ain't even a Big Ten or nothing. You're one of them out.
I'm independent, Larry. Mark's a troll.
You are up in the head too. You'll have to pin us up in that noodle. Yeah, you dog Bama, and you do, and you go after a bad fight. Hello?
You're still on, Larry.
Oh,
I mean Larry, why would I don't want to cut you off because this is such a compelling call.
Right, and Mark, you dog Bear Bryant, and get up there. And I love
Larry. He hasn't dogged Bear Bryant. Mark, if you're around, you have dogged Bear Bryant's bowl record.
Just a fact.
Right.
That is a fact, Larry. It's a Bear Bryant had a bad bowl record.
Well, what about y'all? What about your old out in the desert little, what's the name of them?
For the record, this is why I usually cut Larry off.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
what's out? Wait. What's out in the desert?
Who's
Larry?
out in the desert? Yeah, Arizona State.
Larry, let me jump in here, Larry. I've given you about 5 minutes. You've made no sense.
All right, Roll Tide. That's sense. And I'm cut off again.
No, you're not. You're still there, Larry.
Oh, okay. Roll Tide and the heck with Notre Dame. How about that?
That's great, Larry. Now you're cut off. Paul is up next in Jupiter, Florida. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Paul. I don't know if I can topple Larry out there, but I'm going to want to say a few things to you, if you would. My wife recently passed away about 3 weeks ago. We're big Alabama fans, and I wanted to call the show and just to thank you for your show. She watched it every day. We were on home hospice for the last 5 months. You and Laura on Mondays, and the guys, John and Mark, everybody there kept her entertained. And every once in a while when all these guys get on you and you think that that's all they're doing is just ragging on you, I just want to thank you for all the entertainment that you helped her and I through for the last few months. It was just a pleasure. She's from Birmingham originally, listened to your show for years when you were on the radio up there, and every day at 3 o'clock we'd put you on, and for those 4 hours we could kind of forget about everything that she was dealing with her multiple sclerosis, and she passed in November on the 13th, but you got to see the Mississippi State game with Alabama, and hung in there for that, and just want to thank you for all that you've done for us.
I tell you what, first of all, I'm so sorry to hear that, but I'm deeply appreciative of you sharing that, and I know everyone always tries to tell somebody how difficult it is. There's no way of knowing, but I have had friends with that, and it's a very difficult thing. But what you've said not only means a lot to us here, but I think it touches so many other people who are going through difficult times.
Well, I appreciate that, but thank you for everything, and I'm going to give you a Roll Tide just like Larry does, though, and hopefully they can get it done this year. But I appreciate it, Paul.
Paul, thank you, and best to you and your family. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is
Bye-bye.
incredible to think about. And, I don't know. Nothing is ever easy in terms of losing someone, but I think this time of the year we tend, at least I know I do, get a little more reflective. My mom died this time of the year, and there's no way to ever reach a point like this when you don't think about that or what he just shared with us. But thanks so much. Thanks so very much. We'll take a break. Back with much, much more. We are glad to have you. Let's continue with more phone calls and check in next with James in Tennessee. Hello, James. Welcome to the show. James,
hey.
There? Hey, go right ahead.
Hello, this is James. Yes.
Well, good. Glad to have you.
I was wondering about the Vols. Has it messed up our recruiting this year?
Well, I'm sorry?
Has it messed up our recruiting for this year?
Oh, I think that's to be determined. I think that they're going to be able to save some of this class. I just don't know how much of it. I mean, Butch Jones had a really top-notch class that he was putting together. But considering the damage that has been done, it's going to be a challenge. Thank you very much. Glad to hear from you. How about Dick is up next? Dick, go right ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to say yesterday one of your guys mentioned that what does Paul Finebaum mean to the fans? And I want to tell you that my wife will not go grocery shopping. She will not run her errands for the 4-hour period that you're on every day. She's
oh my goodness,
dedicated. You're the fans consultant. You're the lick lot where everybody goes to get their football knowledge. And just wanted you to know that we appreciate your show very much. I also wanted to comment on the situation at Tennessee. Paul, just a quick question. Can you name the coaches that have won a national championship at the University of Tennessee?
Yeah, first of all,
thank you. Coach at the University of Tennessee.
Yeah,
that won a national championship.
Thank you very much for what you said. That means a great deal. As far as coaches that have won a championship at Tennessee, obviously we have Fulmer. We would have General Neeland.
And the other coach that coached at Tennessee that won a national championship was John Major.
Well, I was thinking of just at Tennessee. Yeah.
Okay, I misled you.
Johnny won the national championship at Pittsburgh in 1976.
Right, and he coached 16 years at Tennessee. He built a program at Pitt. I think built a program at Iowa State. I think 5 years there. Then 16 years at the University of Tennessee. He had a .645 winning percentage. His last 4 years at Tennessee, I think, were 34-9, and he had a 7-4 bowl record, I think, at the University of Tennessee.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, and the reason I know all this is because I was at school when he came back.
Right.
He took. He was. Bill Battle was the coach, as you probably remember.
Right.
And Bill was let go, and Johnny was hired while he still had one game left at Pittsburgh, and that was the Sugar Bowl against Georgia. And he coached it was the national championship game. He coached that game.
Yes, Vince Dooley.
And then he came back. And, Johnny returning to Knoxville, I'm not sure fans appreciate how significant that was when you hired the coach that was in the process and was going to win the national championship. It was a big deal.
Right. You got 2 national championship coaches living in Knoxville. You got 2 Hall of Fame coaches living in Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
And why the university can't wrap their arms around both coaches and get the best of the world of both knowledges.
Well, but Dick, you know some of that. And for those who don't know the backstory, it's well known in Knoxville. But Johnny Majors, prior to the 1992 season, he had heart surgery, I believe. I can't remember the specifics.
He had five bypasses. But I think he came back and coached the last 3 games.
Well, he actually here's what happened. This is based on memory from 25 years ago, which just like yesterday. Philip Fulmer came in. He did a terrific job. They beat Florida. They beat Georgia, and Johnny came back too soon. I think he came back and coached against Arkansas, and they lost the game. And then the next week they played Alabama and lost that game. And about 4 weeks later, they fired him. And I've never I've gotten everybody's version. I'm not sure which one to believe. Majors claim Fulmer pulled a coup d'etat Fulmer denies it. Regardless, Fulmer ended up being the coach.
That's right. But I think Doug Dickey was the athletic director at the time.
Yes, he was.
And I think he and Majors probably had some issues before Dickey ever became the athletic director at UT. And Dickey was looking for one of his own players to name as coach, and Fulmer was there.
Sure.
And if it hadn't been for John Majors, I don't think Fulmer would be where he is today.
No, and
give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, I mean, and I know both, and I like Johnny a lot. I mean, he was he was a great coach, and unfortunately for Johnny, he made a mistake. He ended up going back to Pittsburgh, where it was less than spectacular. It's the old line, you can't go home again. Well, he went home, and then he tried to go back to where he used to be, and it was a mess. But I don't know if he and Fulmer have ever spoken. I talked to Lane Kiffin about this once, and Kiffin did bring Johnny Majors back to the program, but no one has been able to get those two guys together.
Well, let's hopefully one day.
By the way, I'm going to try before.
The piece at UT there hasn't been peace at UT since 1992.
Yeah,
and let's hope.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Together. So,
yeah. And you know what, Dick? I don't know how much of that played into what we saw unfold here 2 weeks ago, but some of it may still be going on.
Your piece there that you had a little earlier, that Pete guy that wrote that you read, he was right on target. Right on target with the whole situation.
Dick, thanks so much for the phone call. Really appreciate what you said earlier. We are up against a break. Another hour to go. This week, tune in to the Paul Finebaum Show as I discuss
the delicious taste of ice cold Dr. Pepper.
Larry Culpepper? Hey, I'm in the middle of a promo.
Sorry, Finey. The fans are craving so much Dr. Pepper, I thought I'd borrow some of your airtime.
Security!
Hey, look, whether you're watching college football or calling into some guy's radio show, Dr. Pepper makes college football that much sweeter. So head to your local Dollar General and grab some today.
Can I have one of yours?
Hey, we got a caller. You're on the Larry Culpepper Show with your host, Larry Culpepper.
That's it.
That's Dr. Pepper, the one fans crave.
Another hour to go here on a Tuesday. We've had a good time and a lot of conversation. We'll continue with your phone calls at 855-242-7285. Stephen is in Georgia, and you are next up. Hello, Stephen. Good afternoon.
Finebaum, what's going on, buddy?
Doing great. Thank you.
Good, man. Hey, man, I got 1 point and 2 questions. I don't want to be cut off like Larry thinks he is, so I'll make it fast for you.
Go right ahead.
My point is, did you know that Jimmy Sexton represents 11 out of the 14 SEC coaches?
I thought he represented 10, but it may be 11. I could have missed one in the last 2 or 3 days.
Yep, it's 11. And my 2 questions for you is, my first question is, how many dump trucks full of $100 bills is Smart going to have going into Athens after this season? Because he only makes $3.75 million right now, and I think that figure is going to go way up.
You know, one day, Stephen, I want somebody to say, "Hey, we only make $3.7 million."
Exactly. Well, you know, my next question is, why don't you call Sexton up? I mean, you are the most popular talk show host in the country right now, I think. I mean, you got people from the West Coast, East Coast, and the Northeast. I mean, you got big tenders giving you a call, and you know, so I mean, I think you're big time enough.
Yeah,
now
you know, listen, I am. I'm thinking about getting rid of my agent. He has not done. I trusted the guy. You trusted him, and it's time to fire Charles from Reeltown as my agent.
Yeah, you know what? I think Charles needs to go away, and you need to. Call Jimmy Sexton.
I kept saying, Charles, get me a good deal, and he was busy.
Well, Paul, thanks. Have a great night.
I don't have, some people, by the way, Stephen, have like long-term contracts. We have like week-to-week contracts here. Are you good for the rest of the week or not?
We'll see how I do today.
Okay. Who else does Charles represent?
I think Coobs and John.
He represents Kubiak. Who represents you guys? Do you guys have a big time agent like all these coaches, or?
Well, Paul, I thought you were our agent.
Well,
I was counting on it.
Yeah, this has been going on for 3.5 years. You telling me you're not representing us?
Well, I mean, what I told you was I would take care of it.
Right.
And by take care of us, it means hand them to Randy, and Randy takes care of us.
Yeah, I mean, what I meant by that is that I'd get you to the end of the rainbow, and unfortunately, we're past the rainbow. We just went right past it. Guys, what's that? I mean, what's going on here? This studio's starting to fall apart. If you guys,
just fell out of the sky.
I mean, like stars falling out of the sky. Let's continue with more calls. And Brad is up next. Hey, Brad.
How you doing, Paul?
We're doing great. Thank you.
I got a question. What do you think Georgia's defense is going to have to do to stop that explosive Oklahoma offense?
Well, let's think about it for a second. Can you name me a game that Georgia has been in a similar situation than they have been in against Baker Mayfield?
Probably closest would be Notre Dame.
Okay. Mark Kubiak, you were at that game, right?
Yes, I was.
Did you see any similarities on the Notre Dame offense to what we're going to see with Baker Mayfield?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Brandon Wimbush and Baker Mayfield just missed out on the Heisman ceremony.
Both teams approached the line of scrimmage and snapped the ball to initiate the play. That's about the only similarity.
So essentially, Brad.
Although it's probably a better defense because we all know TCU's defense is kind of garbage. So.
It seems like the power of the SEC West is going to the East, so I guess everything's going to be on the East now. Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky.
Do you think the East is now the beast?
Yeah, I believe so. It's getting there.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's getting there. It's quite gotten there, but yeah, it's outside of Georgia. I mean, Georgia right now is in a really good spot. I like Georgia in that game, though. Hey, thanks, appreciate it. Eric is in California. Eric, go right ahead.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
We're doing great, thank you.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you, man, I love your show, man, and I appreciate the authenticity of your show, and I'm just really grateful for you always taking my call, and I want to say that to the callers out there because you are authentic, and knowing I'm a USC and a Pac-12 guy, you always take my calls, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, though, Paul, you being from Tennessee and a Tennessee guy, and I know you really love Alabama, when they play, who do you root for?
You know, I have a similar answer for every question about who I root for, and it's getting rather old. But I am an opportunist, being in this business, and I root for the best story that helps us. I hear this Alabama thing all the time. I've rooted against Alabama before. When I caught a lot of flack, but in 2010. Not only did I pick Auburn to beat Alabama, I wanted to see Auburn win the game because I wanted to see a national championship. What I did, really, it's very dependent on how it used to be a little more dependent than it is now. So,
right.
But Tennessee is my school, though. I mean, deep down, I'm always going to root for my school. This year, I can't tell you I was really overly excited by watching Tennessee and Alabama play because, sometimes you just don't waste a lot of energy in a game you know is going to be a rout.
Right. And I also wanted to say, Paul, I really appreciate, I watched earlier, I seen when you did the show on ESPN, and they were talking about the Iowa at Kinnick Stadium.
Oh, yeah.
And I seen you show your emotion and get choked up a little bit. And, when I see that, that's another thing I really appreciate, too.
Well, Eric, thank you about that. And sometimes I appreciate you saying that about authenticity. And I think, I don't know where I read this, but when you are on the air for as long as we are on, and we like being on, it's hard to hide. You can hide in a short period of time, but I don't try to get too revved up here like many of my colleagues because it is a long program, and I want people to feel comfortable. I don't want people to be yelling at me if I'm watching a show, and I don't think you want me to be yelling at you. You want me to speak in a normal voice.
Right, and that's another thing that I appreciate the show. I know a lot of callers, they get on that the gym guy from Tuscaloosa. But, I enjoy the energy, and, that's one of the things I really like about you, too, is you welcome that. You don't, like me, I'm a USC Pac-12 guy, but you still talk to me all the time. You take my calls, even though you know that's,
well, the one thing I like to say, Eric, let me, I'll explain this 1,000 times, but I'll do it again.
Okay.
There are two components of this program. There's the television component, which is on the SEC network, which is a national network. And then there is a radio component, which is on a number of individual radio stations around the country. And there's another component. We're on satellite radio, which is a national platform. So I always get hung up on this SEC stuff, but because we started this year, we did it for the first time. We had an early hour, which 2 o'clock, which would be 11 o'clock on the West Coast, where that was mainly a national. That was not a radio. That was a TV show. That was a national college football program. So we talk. We've had Sam Darnold on. We've had Josh Rosen. We've had countless other college football players. But once we start the regular show, we narrowed it a little bit. But still, there's always a national component here. So if somebody calls and wants to talk about what you want to talk about, then by all means, we talk about it.
Yeah, and one of the last things I just want to comment on the Tennessee thing, I watched all the press conferences, and, I hope Tennessee does well. But the feeling that I got when they announced Philip Fulmer as the AD and the Chancellor was right there, and I just really didn't get a good feeling from it. When they did the press conference, they read off the papers they were reading, and when they were asked questions, it just felt like they were being evasive. And I hope Tennessee does well. I don't hope.
Are you talking about the press conference announcing Fulmer or the press conference announcing Pruitt?
The press conference announcing Fulmer.
Yeah, well, let me explain there. And I would rarely stand up for someone who was reading, but considering what was going on that day, I think the Chancellor was probably wise to measure her words, considering how angry she probably was with John Curry, how many lawyers had probably advised her do not say anything litigious, considering we may have Greg Schiano suing us, and we may have John Curry suing us.
And I thought the same thing. I took that into consideration. It's just the feeling I get. Like I say, I hope it all works out, but the feeling is just like.
Well, I can only speak from Eric. I can speak from experience. I've walked onto programs with lawyers telling me, "Do not say anything," and and I saw that in those statements because they had to be extraordinarily careful. Not only had they been just watched one of the worst coaching searches in modern day time become a mushroom cloud, they had to go out and find a coach. So there was very little they could say. We're up against a break. Thanks for the call from California. We still have 45 minutes or so here, and we will continue after this.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
To go back to the calls, and Jim is up next. Hey, Jim.
Hey, look, I just, it's on your channel. I mean, during the break just now. Did you see or hear? Did you hear? I just heard it 2 minutes ago. The commercial for the Women's Open. Did you hear it?
No, I sometimes during the commercials we are not paying much attention.
That's what I thought. Well, anyway, it sounded like Timmy B. So he's got a great voice, Paul. You know that. You got a good one. I think I used to have a good one, but. That's why I like to hear Danny Sheridan and Timmy B. They are exceptionally good at what they do and exceptionally have tremendous.
Yeah, I was texting with Tim yesterday. We were, as you know, we're good friends and we keep up with each other, even though we're always on different sides of the planet.
Well, I just wish you could get him back on again. I just love to hear the guy talk
get him
about.
On. I
don't care what.
Tim's been on this show a couple of times.
I know that, Paul. I hadn't heard him recently.
Okay, let me ask you this, Jim. You like Danny.
I love Danny and I love
Brando. If you could, who else would be on your list of potential?
It's a short list, Paul.
Yeah,
it's a short list because there's not too many classified or classy, outstanding broadcasters, commentators.
Well, anyone. I mean, it doesn't matter who they are.
They are all of the above.
Okay, so anyone else other than those two?
Well, of course, I like iMonkey. What you? Oh, and Smokey, what's his name? Smokey the Squirrel?
Yeah, I won't ask you who you'd like to see less of. That would probably be...
you just heard the last two.
Yeah.
The two that I just mentioned last are the I wish I'd never hear from them ever on Earth again. Ever.
I was more thinking of guests as opposed to callers, but that's okay.
Well, no, I know, but the guests that I love are, by the way, this Ned guy, was he trying to top me for outrageous calls of the year? You think people are going to buy that Ned? 10 holes and run, playing with shooting 10 under with Jerry Payton. Come on, Ned. We can buy a little. We're not buying that ranch.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of hole-in-ones.
Oh, I've been around those characters. You think you're talking about an exaggeration? Go to the 19th hole.
Hey, would you
and the 20th hole.
Would you consider Ben Hogan to be one of the greatest golfers ever?
Well, there's no question about it. There's no question about it.
And I found this out after my hole-in-one. Because I was playing with someone who knew Hogan a little bit, Hogan, excuse
right.
me. And I'm walking to the. You may have heard this story, but I'm not going to tell the host. I was actually playing around with my wife and Hall Thompson.
I know Hall. I know young Hall very well. I don't know the older man.
Well, he passed away, but he was the founder of Shoal Creek. He was a member of Augusta.
I know all that, Hall. I know the history.
Okay, so I'm scared to death just playing with the guy. Okay,
I understand.
So I make this hole-in-one at the 5th hole at Shoal Creek, which is a famous course in Alabama.
Right.
And
it's his course. He designed it.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Gary Player designed it.
Actually, Nicholas designed this one.
Okay.
Gary Player designed North River in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I got it mixed up.
So anyway, there's a caddy with us. He's jumping up and down. My wife's screaming. I know better than that excited with someone that well known and that respected. And I'm like breathless. I'm walking down toward the hole, and first of all, he handed me my tee, which I had not picked up.
You mean Hall Senior?
Yeah, that's a etiquette. You hit a shot, you pick up your tee.
Sure, I understand.
I made a hole-in-one. I wasn't really concerned about the tee. I was watching the ball.
I know.
So we're walking to the hole, and he said, I thought this ended up being part of the eulogy at his funeral, because I told the minister, and he said, he looked at me, he goes, is that the first one? I said, yes, sir.
I know what's coming. Go ahead.
He goes,
how many? He made 14?
He goes, no, he goes, Hogan never had one.
I didn't know that.
And that was the end of the conversation. In other words, it's not that big of a deal because you actually hit a lucky shot that took one bounce and went in the hole. And that was it. And the next day.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, Paul. I'm going to tell you something. Since you brought that up, here I go. I'll sound like I'm bragging, but I'm telling you, as much golf as I played, and I played pretty well, Paul. I'll be honest. I mean, I really did. I shot in the park,
sure.
numerous times, and I could play. I never made a hole in one.
No,
but I mean, so many times I hit a shot right next to the cup, and how about this? Let me finish this. And I have been beaten in match play. That's where you play hole to hole.
Yeah,
I have been beaten 2 or 3 times on the last hole where I had come back to tie the match and go to the last hole. I hit my ball about 2 feet from the hole, and the guy a dummy gets up there, I'm playing, and knocks it right in the hole, and I lose. Now, how about that?
Well, no, Jim, it's pure luck.
I know that.
Because, first of all, nobody in their right mind actually aims right at the pin.
Of course not.
I mean, you're trying to, hit, and the pin I had.
You're spinning the ball, you aiming about 10 or 15 feet above the hole.
You're trying to, that way if you miss it, you can go on either way. But
right.
I can promise you, I just hit the ball. I didn't know where I was going with it.
I never used juice like that on a small, like a par 4. The par 3 I'm thinking about, Country Club Tuscaloosa, was a 125-yard par 3, 9-hole, wedge.
Right.
And I never tried to spin the ball. I just hit it to the flag.
Sure. Yeah, you're trying to get on the green.
It stopped, and I would leave it like a 1.5 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet.
Yeah.
Many times, yet never not a hole in one, and I get it made on me by some idiot that can't even play.
Yeah. Was this in the Ryder Cup, Jim, or is this just like a local club?
No, this was on a tournament down at Tuscaloosa Country Club. But, I mean, that was a compliment he was really giving you by by saying, Hogan never made one. You made one. Did you?
Well, he had not made one either, I think, was his ultimate point.
Oh, really?
He was a great man, by the way. But this
I know.
was just
His
a funny
son's a pretty
story.
nice guy, too. Believe it or not, I'm telling you the truth. I hope he's listening. I have a ring I can show you with his initials inside that he gave me one night at a church.
Who's this?
Hall Jr.
Oh, okay.
Lives in Birmingham. Wife's name is Tricia.
No, I know Hall.
Yeah, you know Tricia?
I think so.
That's his wife, the young Hall's wife. I better not be talking too much.
Yeah, be careful, Jim.
Yeah, right. But they are good friends of some people that
Family
I know.
show.
Families in Tuscaloosa that I know well. And
okay.
Anyway,
hey Jim, one of these days you and I just get ourselves a golf show on the Golf Channel. Forget all this, okay?
Look, that's good stuff, Paul. What you just said, that story is interesting. I don't care who you are. If you know anything about sports, that's interesting stuff.
No doubt. Well, appreciate the call.
But none of that Ned stuff is too interesting anymore.
You're right about that.
That was a one-day thunder.
You're right about that.
He's trying to bring it back every day now.
More golf. Yeah, thanks, Jim.
All right.
A lot of good golf conversation here on this December 12th.
In football season.
I'm not even sure what season this is. Squirrel is next.
I was hoping you'd put me on with him. I asked for you.
No, it's a holiday season.
Yeah, well, you throw Jim on other callers. Let's throw some callers on Jim. No, I was just going to question everything that he was saying because basically he's a compulsive liar. And so nothing he says, I believe, because he's, like I said, we've called him so many lies. He admitted
he lost in a match play tournament. That was pretty honest.
Right. Again, you might believe everything your lapdog says, Paul, but we don't. We're not buying it. But, no, I just wanted to chat with him to see how he's doing. I understand I'm one of his favorite callers. So, again, just wanted some quality time with your lapdog. I'll catch him some other time. Aloha.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like that was not a long call there. Anyway, we'll keep rolling. Linda is up next. Hey, Linda.
Hello. Hey, Paul, the best-looking man on TV, and your stocks are going up according to my sources.
A woman to my heart.
And I would be glad to be your agent. I can make big things happen for you, Paul. Do you believe that?
Well, but by the way, we just let Charles from Reeltown know that he would his services would not be needed any longer.
I know. I heard that.
Well, what do they call that in coaching? Instead of saying you were fired, Charles and I have parted ways, mutually parted ways, and I wish him well in his future endeavors.
I'll tell you what. This
so he's no longer representing me.
This Senate race going on down here in Alabama, it's
is that tonight? I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, I think you did, but anyway, my mom told me a long time ago, me and my sister and my brother, don't ever discuss politics or religion with anybody.
No, I had to listen. You know how I feel about my mom, but I finally, toward the end, quit talking politics with her because she didn't like what I had to say.
Okay.
I once told her who I voted for, and she hung up on me.
Oh, did she really?
Oh, yeah.
But to talking a little bit about football, of course, Alabama football, I think we're gonna. I predict we're gonna beat Clemson. Probably by touchdown, maybe a touchdown and a field goal. We're bringing our players back, and I think they're going to be healthy. All but one, of course. Sean Deion Hamilton won't be because he's out for the season. But I think our players are going to be healthy, and that's according to my sources too. And we're gonna play well. We're gonna get Clemson and whoever we play in the national championship, which would be great if it were two SEC teams. But I hate to say this.
Can you imagine listening the week of that game, Alabama and Georgia? No.
The hype leading up to that. I mean, Saban and a former assistant, which Saban has never lost to a former assistant. 0-11. He's 0-11.
It would be a fascinating week, would it not?
Oh, it would be great. It would be, the hype would be so incredible.
And of all places to have that game, Atlanta.
Yes. And, of course, Atlanta is in the state of Georgia, and Alabama, that's just their home away from home, is it not?
It's just like 5 minutes away. Hey, Lynn, we're up against the break. We will continue final 30 minutes of this program. Stick around. Welcome back to the program. Let's talk to Bo in Dallas. Bo, thanks. Good afternoon. Welcome to our show.
Hey, Paul. Appreciate you letting me talk to you.
Thank you.
Before I ask my question, I just wanted you talking about golf a while ago. I played golf like crazy. But my ex-wife, one day, I'm a witness, she made a hole-in-one from 139 yards out, par 3, from the ladies' tees, and the ball never left the ground. So basically, she made a 139-yard putt.
I've seen one like that, but you know what? That still counts as an ace.
Mm-hmm. It was in the paper and everything.
Yeah, no, it's hole-in-ones are not all equal.
No, they're not. I've never made. But here's why I called you up. You know I'm a Mississippi State guy, and I'm sad losing Dan Mullen, but you predicted it. God, I try to watch a little bit of your show every day.
Thank you.
But I want to know that. What do you know about this Moorhead guy? I don't know a lot about him.
I don't know much. We talked to him the other day, and he's very personable. He played and coached at Fordham. He was the offensive coordinator at Penn State the last couple of years, really doing a phenomenal job with McSorley and Saquon Barkley in under James Franklin. And, again, I just know what I know. I know about him from other people, and he has an impeccable reputation.
He seems like a pretty cool guy. I think he's going to do well. What do you think?
I'm very optimistic, and for this reason, Bo. He has a really good team coming back, and he has Nick Fitzgerald. And I think that is the recipe for a really good start. Thank you so much for the call. Nice of you to be with us. Let's continue with more phone calls. And Daryl is up next in Georgia. Hello, Daryl. Good afternoon.
I'm glad that you brought up Dan Mullen because this is funny, okay? I was reading the other day on a Mississippi State site. They were slamming you, man. They were slamming you left and right. Paul Finebaum don't know nothing. Paul Finebaum is trying to stir the pot. They were slamming you over Dan Mullen leaving Mississippi State, okay? Because he was still at this point, he was still there. But I just sit there reading just all the stuff they said, called you dumb, called you stupid, said you were trying to stir the pot, all kind of stuff. And Nick Cohen, when it's all said and done, you didn't know what you were talking about. When it was all said and done, now looking at it, now Dan Mullen's gone. And I just thought that was just absolutely hilarious. You'd have to read some of the comments.
I mean, I've had a lot of conversations with Mississippi State fans, and they did not believe, and that's okay. I mean, you have to believe what your coach tells you, but I also sensed, as you did, and probably many others, that he would get a number of offers.
Never doubt the voice of the SEC, okay? I mean, that right there makes it more idiotic. I mean, never doubt the voice of the SEC. Paul, I am tired of these Alabama people, like Judy, okay, claiming Atlanta to be their home away from home. That's not their home away from home, okay? Their home away from home is somewhere like Legion Field, okay? I mean, that would be their home away from home. They kill me having all these assistant coaches. Well, Nick Saban's never lost to an assistant coach. It's like Kirby Smart and Muschamp and friggin' Jimbo Fisher and Lane Kiffin. It's like none of them knew anything about football until they got to Alabama. And then all of a sudden, Nick Saban taught them everything they know. I mean, it's a bunch of friggin' garbage, big time. I just want to remind the families two things, okay? No, I want to remind them, number one, who the SEC champs are, okay? Now I want to remind them, number two, it's been almost a month since they won a football game. See you, Paul.
Thank you for the call. I do appreciate it. Let's continue with more calls. And Thomas is in Mississippi. Thomas, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Dr. Finebaum.
Thank you.
I would like to ask you what your opinion is that the NCAA and the networks will do when you've got an SEC championship in the national championship. Well, I would expect that it would demand an 18 playoff.
Well, it did the last time. The last time the SEC met in an all-SEC final, 2011, the next day they came up with the college football playoff. I don't know. I think it depends. Part of the reason for that wasn't so much the fact that it was Alabama and LSU. It was the fact that the game was just so bad that there was a reaction or maybe an overreaction. I'm not sure that will happen, though, because I think most people agree these are the four best teams. and you had a human committee pick them versus a computer and 2 wire service polls?
I agree with you. It's the best 4 teams. As far as the networks go, the ratings from the far west and the East Coast, since you've got 3 teams from the South.
Yeah. You know, you're right. I mean, by the way, the committee is concerned about ratings, but the person the entity that cares the most, if not primarily about the ratings, are the people that broadcast the game, and that's ESPN. And the ratings for these games have gone down marginally over the last couple of years. It's worth remembering that until 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, this game was on ABC. Then they moved it to ESPN, which is going to be seen by a slightly less smaller number of people, but ESPN feels very strongly about putting it on its network. But yeah, I mean, there's an issue about that. I mean, this is there's no way between Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, and Alabama that you're going to have a really big national matchup. I mean, the worst possibility, I think, frankly, there's no difference between Georgia and Clemson or Georgia and Alabama. I mean, you're still talking about states that pretty much hug each other.
Correct.
Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama, Oklahoma is a little better, but it's still not that great. I mean, the better matchup would be Ohio State, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma.
So, in your professional opinion, dealing with corporate sponsorship, do you think that the corporate sponsors feel like the game is going to be a great game, all 4, or all 3, pardon me?
But Thomas, remember something about this. This is not a 1-game deal. This is a 3-game deal. And, you know, knowing most of the sponsors that are involved, I mean, they are in on big-time deals, and there's a lot more to it than the final number of viewers on that Monday night. There's a build-up. Sponsors not only buy that game, they buy packages of the New Year's 6 games. They may buy packages for the whole bowl season. So there is a lot more to it than that one night.
No.
But I will tell you this: no matter as great as the game is, it will probably pale in comparison to the second round of the NFL playoffs.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But it will also probably be better than any other
opinion.
Yeah. It's still going to be a big number, though, and there's almost no way it won't be. I mean, no matter how you shake it up. I don't really know what the best combination is, because Alabama and Georgia are pretty much the same the same part of the country will be watching both of those teams.
Correct.
Now, okay, the worst case scenario for television is probably Alabama, Georgia, wouldn't you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, having dealt with corporate sponsorship,
okay,
if there's not going to be a network outcry for 8 teams instead of 4.
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope there is. I don't think there will be, but I'll find out. Listen, I mean, when we're down there in New Orleans and elsewhere, we'll talk to a lot of people, and maybe we can get someone from ESPN to explain this to us.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. But it is a very successful product, though. I will say that. We are up against a break. Final few minutes of our program coming up. We'll talk to you after this. A few minutes to go. Let's try to grab some more calls. And Bruce is in South Carolina. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, Paul. Thanks for taking my call tonight.
Thank you.
Well, I got cold chills when Chad Morris was announced the head coach at Arkansas. I love his offense. I think
he's great. Yeah.
He is a humble man. He turned around Clemson's offense. People wanted to play for him here. I'm a Clemson fan, by the way. I think he had to deal with Dabo, too. And anyway, I was surprised that we got him here. I really was, and it was a great thing he came here and people wanted to play for him. And I was real happy to see him get that job. I predicted that him get that job when he announced it. He gave me cold chills because I said it a week ago they're going to have Chad Morris. And I'm also a Chad Kelly fan. What they did to Chad Kelly here, it was abomination, I tell you. And he proved his point going to Mississippi, beating Alabama, their national championship year, and I hope he does well in the National Football League. But Chad Morris, God bless the man, and hope he does well up there.
That's a great comment. Really glad to hear from you. Thank you so very, very much. Let's talk to Jay in Florida. Jay, thanks. Good afternoon.
Hello, Mr. Finebaum. Hey, I just want to say you got a great show up there.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Hey, one thing y'all was talking about earlier that old Georgia ain't seen nobody compared to that old Baker Mayfield, and I just had to call in and disagree because I think old Drew Lott's got a couple more touchdown passes than that guy there.
Listen, Drew's had an outstanding year. There's no doubt, but I think Baker Mayfield, in my mind, is definitely the best quarterback. Thanks for the call. Do appreciate it. Ben is in Montgomery, Alabama, the capital. Hey, Ben.
Paul. Yeah, I'm a first-time caller. I just wanted to say I watch your show every day.
Thank you.
When I get home from work at about 4, and anyway, what I wanted to ask you about and talk to you about was fan support. You had a caller early last week, it might have been Monday or Tuesday, and you were talking about this. You know, any weekend you can look at any ESPN channel and the broadcast networks and find every SEC game. And if you watch them, they all have a bunch of crazy maniacs up in the stands. You know, you got South Carolina fans who are dressed like chickens, and then you got, you know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Georgia fans wearing the spikes. But there's one SEC team who has nothing like that, and you know who I'm talking about, right?
And you said it was Alabama, is that right?
That's what I'm saying. Whenever they point the camera into the stands at an Alabama game, what do you see? You see a couple of attractive co-eds wearing cheap houndstooth caps, twirling pom-poms about the size of candy apples, with a look on their faces like they'd rather be anywhere but there. And I just
Hey Ben, I get it. I hate
ask
to run. We're up against the end of the show. You can get the podcast on the app and Apple Podcasts.